And we're back, the new network. It is episode 12.
12 already. That's crazy.
How's your day going today?
It's been good. I've actually gotten a lot of work done today. It's been pretty productive, which is my
Good.
favorite thing to do on a Friday because normally Fridays I'm like a
Yes.
little more relaxed, but
I
yeah, I've
have,
got a lot.
that's good. I have a lot to do later on today and stuff to deal with that is just like client stuff, but it's okay. It's good. It's like super snowy and cold out, so I'm like, it's okay. I can be inside and do work. It is okay.
I was planning on taking my dogs on a little hike today, but I don't think that's going to happen because we got basically snowed in.
Yeah, no. I don't know. They need to go outside at some point, but it's not going to be the walk that they thought they were going to get.
No, just a backyard kind of day.
Yes, exactly. So today, what we want to talk about is money. I want to talk about things like the habits we were or weren't taught, the things we were or weren't taught about. Like, I think the overall term would be financial literacy, but I really don't love, like, I don't drive with that term. But the things that, or different stipulations we had, like growing up, I can remember very vividly being told by my parents that you don't ask what someone makes, it's rude. Like, did you ever have any encounters like that growing up?
100%. There really is a stigma with money. Like it's almost like a we don't talk about it thing. It's like, there's some other
Yes.
things like that, but I don't really know. I don't remember specific conversations. It was always just kind of like a social norm that you just grew up knowing you don't ask about people's money. You don't talk about people's financial situations.
Yeah.
And then coming into this business, it was kind of like a big shock because both of our businesses, we need to ask about people's money. Like that's
To ask the questions, and
exactly.
it went from being such a taboo topic but I think also what comes with it being taboo is that, like, a lot of things aren't talked about, but it's not a good thing. It's like how mental health didn't used to be talked about, like, but we need to talk about those things. So it's our financial health. It's not talked about because it's taboo and people are told not to, but it's like people are drowning in debt, or there could be a solution out there that could help them so much more than what they think they're doing right, but they don't want to talk about it.
Exactly. And like your job with helping people with their finances and stuff, like I didn't even know that job existed because I thought like you dealt with your money by yourself and there was no resources, there was no one to help you.
Right, you just
It
like
was
figure
just
it out.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this episode because I'm excited to learn a little bit too.
Oh, yes, and I think
No pressure.
but I think that's what it's all about, is learning. And there's so much out there in the way of, like, if you Google a question, or even with investing, you can, like, stocks, mutual funds, like, there's a thing going around right now where it's like, I don't know if you've seen it on Facebook, it's like your own bank. It's using a life insurance policy to um, fund like your own endeavors. And some of these strategies work, but like so little is out there about them, and it can be really overwhelming to try to like sort through and sift through all on your own and decide what's the best decision for you to make and where to put your money and what it's for. And I think that too comes into play, is like, I never had financial goals growing up, and I was never told like you should set goals, like how much you want to save or spend. And I think that's a really big part to our generation's, like, switching the script and having goals, and not being so used to instant gratification. Like, okay, there's a new iPhone out, we want it, we put it on our credit cards, and it's like saving for things, and truly putting a plan in place for our money. We work hard for it, so why do we spend it like we don't care about it?
Right. The one thing I will give my parents a quick shout out for is that they were very big on like us not spending our money when we were like in high school and stuff. Like, cause both me and my brother like just spent, like we would go out for lunch, maybe my brother a little bit more. Sorry, Owen, but just just spent it. And they were really big on like trying to tell us like you should be saving, you should be keeping it.
Mhm.
But not really explaining why, kind of just being like, don't spend
Right.
it. And there was never like I was always just like, well, what am I going to use this for? Like I'm
Right.
16, but
Yeah, you're like live now. Like, I want to go out for lunch with my friends, and I want to go do this and do that, and buy alcohol when you could. Like, there was just so much. And I think because it's a topic that you're not supposed to talk about, there, like, I know we had friends with varying degrees. Like, my parents, I made my own money, I spent it on what I wanted. They didn't really, I can't remember any conversation that went on. I called and opened an RSP when I was 18. I didn't know why, but I thought I was supposed to. But then we also had friends that like their parents watched, like put away 50% of their paycheck and like watched their accounts. So we're all growing up with varying degrees of financial assistance or ideas of what we're supposed to do with our money. And it lands us in really different places in our lives.
Right. And I also think like between us, like we were all definitely going through different things financially, but we never like talked about it between our friend group. So like if one person mentioned, hey, let's go out for lunch, all of us were like, okay, well, I guess I'm spending money on lunch today.
Yes. Yes.
And no one said like, no one said anything about like, oh, maybe we should save for like college or whatever it is we're going to do with our lives. We were just like, yep, it's our money. Let's spend it.
I think there's a fear too around being the one that says, and I think this is the word that we think we should say is like, or the line like, I can't afford it, but it can just be, I don't want to spend money on that, or I have bigger goals. But you would be looked at different because you said no. But it's like, no. Like I want to spend my money on a donut on the beach in Mexico, not at the Tim Hortons. Like it's
right.
we weren't intentional enough with our money and selective enough about where it went. Like we spend energy to earn money. So when we're spending that money, like we should be just as intentional with like we're picky about the jobs we have, the people that we work with. So why aren't we being picky about where it goes and what it's going towards? Do you hear my dog just come down?
I hear whiskey, or maybe Maisie.
No, it is whiskey. Like dogs. If I had known the money that a dog would cost, like before I got one, too, being more realistic, I think. Right? Like it was, and everyone too had different like supports from their parents. So like you maybe weren't paying for all on your own, or their parents were buying it all. So everyone was at totally different places, but we never talked about it and it was never taught to us.
And yeah, so we didn't have any of that information to go on. So it's not like even if we did have a conversation within our friend group, we wouldn't really know what to say or know like how to be like, yeah, I would have no idea what to say. And I feel like when I was in high school and I was like, no, I'm going to stay and bring a lunch today or not go on a field trip or whatever it is, I know for a fact everyone would look at me and be like,
they'd be like, oh, are you?
Yeah, what are you doing?
But I want to change that, and I want people to be like aware of what they can do, or even with like things like student loans, right? Like we went to school, and everyone, again, whether you saved money, whether you worked through college, everyone was at a different like playing field. But to like look into what college is going to cost, look into what you're going to spend, and stick to a budget. Like, do you budget, Dakota, or do you have a plan?
Yes, I do, but the degree in which I follow it is not what it should be.
Okay.
If that makes.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's hard to follow it because you might be like, oh, we're supposed to cook supper tonight, but I really want takeout.
Right, and especially like during the times that we're in right now, I have this really negative thing. It's negative and positive in a way, but I'm like, okay, I need to support local, so I need to get takeout tonight.
Yes. Okay. I see where you're coming from. Yes. Mm-hmm. But then,
that's
like,
my justification.
Build that into the budget, right? Be like, okay, once a week I order from a local place, and then it forces you to be like, and then it gets you excited for it. It's not just like, oh, I feel like crap tonight, I want to cook. It's like, no, Friday night, that's my night to do my thing.
Right. And another thing I also find I'm struggling with right now is because it's such a hard thing to, I don't know if you guys experience, there will be lineups to the grocery store. So like a half an hour grocery store where I can go and get my stuff for the week now turns into like a 3-4 hour ordeal, especially if I want to go to Costco or Walmart or something like those lines. And I'm just like, okay, well, let me just run to the store 3 or 4 times during the week instead of going at once. And then I'm just buying all those little things. And I know that adds up so quickly because every time I go in there, I'm like, oh, here's another thing that I didn't have on my list.
Okay. Yes. So I like my, and I guess like I would rather just do it all at one time. So I'm like a bulk shopper, but not really bulk. But I'll make like a meal plan for the week, and then I'll be like, okay, what do I need for that? What do I have? And then I'll go get it. But I also live in a bit more rural space, so it's like going into town is like going into town. So if I don't have to, I don't. But I like at that same note, like I'll go to Costco and get like toilet paper and paper towels, like. But it is dangerous. Costco is dangerous because there's so much at bulk prices. And it's easy because I don't know about you, but we're given credit cards and not told. I mean, now I know, but when we're given them, we aren't really told what to do with them or how it affects us or like I can remember walking into RBC in Otterville and she's like, "Oh, you qualify for a credit card. Do you want it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And it got mailed to me and I didn't know anything about it. And they just went to up my limit the other day to like 15,000. I was like, no, no, I'm okay.
I kept my like $500 student limit for most of my life thus far, just because I know myself and I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting into credit card debt.
Yes, and that is like one of the debts, and we can have a conversation about this in another podcast. Is like good debt versus bad debt and how they affect you and your credit score, because that's one that it's at 20%, like, and it's not a good debt to have. It's a tool that we can use, but it's not a good debt to like keep carrying. But it's that being said, like it's our generation, our like friend group, like it's easy to be like, I'm gonna go buy that and then you're paying it off months or years down the road.
Right. I agree. And it's so hard to say no. Like even today, not so much right now because we're stuck at home, but before the pandemic and or after the pandemic, if we ever get through that, I find it hard because people will be like, hey, do you want to go out for a couple drinks? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want to go out for dinner? Absolutely. Let's go to
Yes.
the Canada's Wonderland or, whatever it is we're going to do. And
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say FOMO. I don't know if you know what that is. Fear of
Oh,
missing out.
yes.
Yeah. I'm
Yes.
going to mansplain that to you real quick. But
I have had enough mansplaining this week, so just lay it on me. I'm ready for it.
I feel like that's a different conversation for us to have. Anyways, yeah, I have a major FOMO issue. And how do I say no? How do I say, you know what? Because I can't say I can't afford it because there's such a stigma behind that right now.
So and that's where I would either like create an alternative, be like, hey, I'd rather go for a walk. Like, do you want to go for a walk? I'll make coffee. We can go for a walk. Or have those goals where okay, we want to go to Mexico in 2027 when we can travel again, or we want to buy a house. So just like, there's nothing wrong with being like, actually, I really want to see you. I want to spend time with you. But right now we're saving for a house. So like, do you want to come here for like a game night? Like create an alternative where you're not saying no to that person, but you're saying, let's do it with a different experience.
I love that. And I think also it comes down to like the more people are focusing on their financial goals and their financial, what did you call it? Financial literacy or health?
Yeah, financial health. I like that better.
Yeah, financial health is good. The more people are like aware of that and like know about that, I think the easier it will be for us and for everyone to say, hey, you know what? I am saving right now, or I'm not really comfortable spending that money.
Yeah.
But with the way that the world is, and especially the youth and our age younger and even a little bit older, it is that big stigma. Like no one wants to talk about money. And even I find that with clients that are around our age, it's really uncomfortable as soon as I bring up money, because like we've been taught you don't bring up money, and it's kind of weird having.
I tell you.
Exactly, but it's like we need to know to protect you and to protect everyone in the transaction. So no, go ahead. Sorry.
I know. No, go.
I want to see a little bit of a shift towards more openness. Like we've seen a lot of openness when it comes to like mental health or like sexuality and all these kind of things that we're a little bit more open to. And obviously the stigma is not the same to those things as it is with money. But
it went from being not talked about and suffering in silence or secrecy to being talked about and it being not for everyone, but the topic itself has been easier to talk about and there's been more resources about it. So now, like, I want to see the same. Like, I want to see financial health be a part of, like health, like high school classrooms, college classrooms.
everywhere. Like teachers, I remember high school or public school, no one talked about money. There was never a class that was like how to budget, how to finance, or things like that.
Right.
And there's, I see it everywhere. Like, why isn't there these classes? But it really is. Why isn't there? Like, we're all asking for them. We're all wondering, but like, where are they?
Right. And why is it not, like, because money is such a resource that it's not everything. Money is not everything, but it is a part of everything. And having that, like, think of it as like the foundation of a house. And if you have cracks in your foundation, or it's crumbling, or you're not sure what's really going on down there, why, like, let's not worry about painting the upstairs. Like, let's focus on that foundation. And it affects all areas of our health. Like, if you're stressed about money, you're losing sleep, you're fighting with your partner, you're like, all areas in that wheel of life, your relationship health, your mental health, your physical health, they suffer because you're worried about this creepy foundation, but you don't even really want to go down and look at it because you don't know where to begin. And that's okay. But talking to someone about it is your first step.
Right.
Just like with
Yeah. Just like with what?
like with everything, it's talking about it. Like, you don't have to carry that burden alone.
Right. And that's why it excites me when I have clients, like especially older clients, but obviously clients at our age too, when I get to say, hey, you know what, Val can talk you through every financial thing that you could ever need.
Yes.
And it's like super exciting because I know that you have this outlook on it that is that open-mindedness and that like no judgment zone, which is what everyone should be.
Yes. Yes. 100%. And I think if you think of like me as like the doctor around, like, of money, like, I would hate to be afraid to go to my doctor and be like, I don't want to tell him about this issue because, like, what if he'll make fun of me, or what if he thinks I should know what it is? Like, we should be able to have someone that we trust to go to, that is going to just listen to us, like, truly listen to us. Because that's like, yes, I'm in sales, but so are you. But you have people, their problem is that they want a house. The solution is that you're going to find them a house. Whether it has 3 bedrooms, like, backyard, that's where the fine details come in. But you hope that you compare the two. And that's no different with, like, as a financial advisor. The solution, or the problem is, like, they're like, what do I do with my money? What's the best place? And the solution, sometimes it's products, but sometimes it's strategies. Like, okay, we're going to start, paying off this credit card first, or we're going to consolidate, or anyways, before I get like too deep into it, there's so many options, but again, you have to talk to someone about it first.
Right. And I think it's a lot of options out there. And because I talk to clients all the time and they're like, financial advisor, like it's like a life coach. Like, you don't know that resource is out
Right.
there, and you don't really know how to start that relationship if you don't know someone in your field specifically. And then a lot of the information that I feel like should be common knowledge, like what you need for a mortgage, or like how to budget or financial plan, or all those, big money words you just dropped there that I 50% understood. All those things, like, we were never taught. And it's not just our generation either, because we can go to people who are in older generations who I'm like, I start talking to about these things and they're like, wait, what does that mean? And it blows my mind how little information or resources there are out there for people and money.
Mm-hmm. When it's something that, like, affects us so greatly. So I'm excited to start being like a leader or a trailblazer, and like shining a light in that corner that we've just been like stepping around it, or like picking up the dirty sock that we've been stepping over. Like, let's talk about the dirty sock, title of this podcast. No.
Yes.
But I've been working with clients. We're on meeting number 4, and they're 38. Yeah, 38. I would say they're both 38, and they just had been like putting into his pension and kind of like living life. They had a mortgage. They had some kids. They have goals. Like, they want to retire in 2039. So I took all their information. We talked about their goals, like what fires them up, what freaks them out, and I was able to put it into a plan. And I was like, okay, if we start putting, this much away every month for them, they can achieve their goal. They can both be retired in 2039. And like, it was just a really cool process. And she's like, she was in tears, and she was so excited, and she was like, I don't know how you made this happen. And I was like, but it wouldn't have happened if she hadn't decided that she was ready to talk about it.
Right. And another thing that I also want to touch on too is like the stigma, because I know like you called yourself a salesperson, and
Mhm.
like I'm a salesperson as well. And I think that there is that stigma behind being in
Yes,
sales.
that we're
Like
just going to
even
push products.
exactly. And I'll recommend clients to financial advisors or whatever, and they'll be like, oh well, I can't really afford to have that conversation right now. But it's not, pardon?
It's like, no, now is the best time to have that conversation, and it also doesn't cost you anything to talk to me, unless, anyways, that's, go on.
Right. That's what I was trying to say is that you talk to people, and like people think that our time, like the second we start conversation, the second I send that
Right.
first email or have that first call, you're now obligated into a contract with me where you have to pay me thousands and thousands of
Yes.
dollars. And I assume it's the same as you from what I've
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah. Like it's not like a lawyer where like one phone call costs X amount of dollars. It's like, we work together, and through working with me, if you have products with me or I manage your investments, that's how I'm paid. It's not like, okay, there are advisors that do like $1,500 for a financial plan. Like, there, don't get me wrong, there's all sorts of structures. My structure is more like, I'm service based, and if like, it's a service, it's a service that comes with working with me. Yeah.
Right. And I want to destigmatize or just eliminate that stigma. Is stigmatization a word?
It is now.
It is now. I want to not have that, because I feel like when I'm already fighting my own battles with being a real estate
Yeah.
agent, because as soon as I talk to someone, I'm always like kind of trying to say that I'm not trying to steal your money without straight up saying I'm trying to steal your money. And every time like I try and recommend a financial advisor or whatever it may be,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm also convincing them to destigmatize your service as well. I don't, does this make sense?
I think I'm following. Like, it's believing in the person on the other side again, because there have been so many people in our industry that have screwed someone over.
Right,
So
exactly. That
we are doing some like relationship damp like healing for them, because like I've come across clients and they're like, we weren't told this and we don't know what we're invested in, but we trusted him. We trust, like the word trust I've heard over and over again, or her, him or her. But I've heard it so many times, and it's so disheartening when like they're like, but it was a family friend, and I'm like, oh, like, and we then are left to clean up the mess. But I would rather them at least talk to me versus being like, nope, we're not dealing with financial advisor. They're awful. They're all the same, because they're not all the same. They're not all the same.
right. That's what I was trying to put into words, but
Right.
you put it into words. Thank you. Um, yeah, exactly. And mistakes definitely do happen, and we are human, and those are going to happen. That's just, everyone's human. Everyone's going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But my biggest like, oh no, is when I start talking to someone and they're like, no, I don't deal with real estate agents, or I don't deal with realtors, or
And I think that's such an interesting time to be like, oh, like, do you mind me asking why? Because then, like, 10 out of 10, they're going to share their crappy story with you, because they're like, we spread bad news that much more. Like, I don't know, there's a percentage, but we spread bad news a lot more than we spread good news. So they're going to share it with you and be like, wow, and then you gain a story that you can share with clients and be like, look, I've heard of other, like, yes, you can also console that person there, but some people are just a hard no until they're turned back to a hard yes, because they make a, I should have used, a realtor, like someone to walk me through this process, because I'm not an expert in it.
I concur. I like that.
Okay. Are we clear? We're good?
I think we covered it. I think it got a little messy because I did not know what I was saying, but I think you nailed it.
Came back. That's good. Yeah. I mean, my biggest thing to people our age is have some goals if you want to save for a house, but then talk to someone about your goals. Like, should you just be putting money into a savings account, or should you be putting it into your tax-free savings account and invest it so your money's making you money? Like, there is no get rich scheme out there, but there is get smart with your money schemes all day long.
I love that. Yeah. I feel like everyone just wants, that magic, like this is what you do and then you're set. But there really isn't. And it really does change from person to person as well. And I think that's why it's so important to not only find someone who can help you out, be it like whatever your problem is in this situation, it's a financial advisor, but it's not just finding the first financial advisor you can find or
Right.
going with the first one recommended to you. You really do need to trust that person.
Yes. Like you have to
Or
feel aligned with them.
right, it really is a partnership, and I think it's the same for real estate.
Oh yeah.
It's not just like we are there to get the job. Like there are obviously financial advisors, I'm sure, and real estate agents who really are just there for the dollar
Right.
and there to do their job and then bye.
So
However, that's why you need to find that relationship that you can build and you can trust, and it's not such a negative thing to need
right.
help.
And or like to have those meetings with them, like you get excited to see them, you want to share things with them, like that saying that it's like, the people in your circle should cheer the loudest for you, like the people in your professional circle, or like your healthcare circle, whether that be your realtor, your doctor, like all of like your dental hygienist. I found a dental hygienist this year and she's so cool and I love her and I love going to see her. But like the people like that are taking care of you, they should cheer loud for you too. They shouldn't make you feel silly or that you should know better. Like you should be able to have an open relationship with them. Like we're and you have the ability to pick and choose. Like there are clients that would come to me and they just don't align with me, and I'm like, that's okay. You will align with someone else and they'll come, like that's okay. Like it's okay to say no to people too if you just don't feel comfortable, if it doesn't feel right. Like your intuition, your gut, it's going to like it's going to feel right if you're meant to have a relationship with them.
Right. And yeah, I love that. And there are definitely clients who are not going to go well with everyone. And I think from our standpoint as well, it's okay to be like, you know what, I don't know if this relationship is going to work out for both of us as
Yeah.
good as it should be. But there's always other people. There's millions of real estate agents. There's millions of financial advisors. You really do just have to find that one person that you can trust.
Yeah.
And if you do that one transaction with the real estate agent and you're okay with it, but like it's not perfect, it's 100% okay to then go and find another person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and don't just stick with someone because your parents are with them, or like truly find someone for your being, or like you and your spouse that it works for. Like don't how am I saying this? Don't just stick with like what tradition is. Like, and maybe it's the banks, right? A lot of people banked at a bank because their parents were there. Well, if that advisor that's in that chair, if you don't align with them, then don't hesitate to go to a different bank or talk to an independent agent. Like there's options, and you as the client or the patient, you are the one that's the most important, and you should feel the most important. So go out and explore and find that person that like that you click with.
Right. And I think we kind of talked, this aligns well with what we talked about last week with that passive living.
Yes.
Don't just, like you said, go with whatever is happening. This is your life. It's your money. It's your home. It's whatever the thing is. You need to protect you and protect your things. And go with whatever feels right with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the exciting part about kind of like what we're doing and why we want to like change the way business is done.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of it is like right now everything's Zoom meetings, of course, with clients. But like when we get back to our norm, I know that you were doing like meetings with clients at dog parks or meetings with clients, like where we actually feel comfortable and where the client feels comfortable. Like not every business meeting, like I know a lot of my friends are like meetings, like I don't want to go to a meeting.
Right. I'm like, but it doesn't have to look like that. It can look however, like it can look the way that you feel best. Like I go on walks with clients. There's things like if I wanted to meet to talk about buying a house, right? Like we could do Zoom, we could do a walk, we could do coffee, we could do a beer. Like it doesn't have to be your typical, like I'm going to show up to your house in a 3-piece suit. It's going to feel a little stiff. Like I don't want stiff. Because no one wants to let information out in a stiff environment. Like let's talk. And it has to take people being ready for change too. Because if I talk to, and I was talking to my clients that I've been working with, if I talked to them 10 years ago, they're probably like, no, like, let's not talk about retirement. Like, we don't need to talk about that. So it takes people ready for action, like ready and ready for a different feeling maybe about their money, like a different relationship with their money and a different way that they feel about the future and their plans and their goals. You just, I'm so excited to help people.
Mic drop. One question I have for you: do you find it difficult to, in today's world, the pandemic, to build those relationships? Because all of our, for me, all of my meetings right now are either like, over the phone or over Zoom. So everything's stiff because everyone's awkward on Zoom.
Yes.
Especially like first meeting. So it's hard to like, I would rather be having this conversation while our dogs run in the field and play, or well, we're sipping on, like you said, a beer or whatever it is. So are you struggling?
I think it depends on the rapport you build.
No, go ahead.
So I think it depends on like the conversation that you have over email or text or however that referral is made. But for some clients, it's super tight on Zoom. It's like, but it takes you as the advisor to be asking the questions or breaking the ice, and not being afraid to be like, so do you guys have kids? Or, like, what are you guys up to this weekend? And making it feel as in person as possible. But it's different. It's definitely different. And it's right. A little bit like, yeah, it's stiffer. People are like, oh, like, do I look at the camera? Do I look at you? If I look at the camera, I can't really make eye contact with you, but I'm not making eye contact with you. And you can't have the same, like, I can't look at, in their foyer and be like, oh, that's a really cute picture, or, oh my gosh, I love your dog, or pick up on their things naturally. So I have to unnaturally ask her about them and be like, hey, like, what do you guys like to do in your free time? Have you talked about retirement, and what do you want to do in retirement? Like, and it depends on how you show up as a person too, to that conversation. Like, your energy needs to be there and their energy needs to be there too.
Right. And I think that's why our jobs have changed so much, is because it is, I would say, harder right now to make those connections, because everything is virtual. And I just wonder what it's going to be like when we finally do get to go back out there and I get to hang out with my clients in person, how easy it is compared to what right now.
Yeah.
Because I've only been doing this in a pandemic. I've never been a real estate agent.
Done it personally. But that'll be exciting too, because I think that our energy can come through in different ways, and people can pick up on us, like social media. They can see bits of who we are. And that's why it is important. And I'm preaching to my own choir. Like, it's important to put yourself out there, because then they've been following you on Instagram. By the time that you're going to meet for coffee, they know what you're about. They know what, like, how you talk, and and that's no different. Like, if someone comes up for me, I creep their social media, because I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let me find out a little bit more about you. And I try not to mention, like, how are your kids, unless they've told me they had kids. That comes off really creepy. But it's the ability to like build rapport in different ways.
Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be an interesting change up if and when we ever get to go back to that thing.
Yeah.
But okay, let me just ask you one thing before we wrap it up.
I'm ready.
If you had to give one piece of advice to a young person who is interested in figuring out their financial health, what would be the one thing you would say to them?
Get life insurance now. You're young and you're healthy, and it won't be cheaper ever. But if they're like, and I've talked to people that were our age or younger, and I was like, hey, like, I really think you should look into getting life insurance, but they didn't think they should. And that's okay. That's okay. But then, like, certain things happen, like our health changes. We don't expect to get tumors at 23, but it happens, and now you're uninsurable. So yes, look into that. Over like 3 coffees or 4 Starbucks, like, a month is what you're going to spend on it. So look into that, and also, like, make a map for your money. Like, this is what comes in every month. This is what has to go out because it's your bills, like it's your rent or it's your mortgage. But this is the money that I get to have fun with. So I want this to be for long term, this to be for short term, and this to be the $20 that I can spend on something in a month. And it doesn't matter what it is because that's what it's allotted for. Like, have like plan where we plan where our energy goes, and we say no to things that we don't want to do. So do the same for your money. Make a little plan. Ask someone to make a plan with you. I'm here.
my,
Let's talk.
my one piece of advice, if someone was to ask me that, would just be to email Val Stratford right now.
I love it. Thank you.
No problem. A little bit of shameless self-promo.
A little, yeah. But I mean, and that's a big thing too. Is like plan for what you want. Put a plan in place. Like don't put it on your credit card and think, "Oh, I'll take care of it." Like, there's like, let's talk now. If you have goals and you want to own a home or you want to own a tiny house, let's talk now. Yes.
Right.
Have intention with your spending and align with it. Those are just my buzzwords. Anyways, there's my big piece of advice. All right.
Okay.
That's a wrap.
Loved it. That is a wrap.
I love it.
Make sure you guys follow us on our social media, the New Net 2020 on Instagram and TikTok. I'm going to try and post more on TikTok because I love TikTok.
I love TikTok.
And I spend so much time on there anyways, so I might as well. And email us at thenewnet2020@outlook.com.
And if you have any like financial tips or anything that you've struggled with, drop that. We can talk about it.
Right. And also I have gotten our Q&A stuff geared up. So I'm going to be posting that at some point this week. So if you have any questions for us, be it personal or financial or real estate or about your dogs or that weird lump on your foot, whatever you may have, we'll talk about it. It's going to be on our Instagram stories. So just put it there. It's going to be all anonymous and we will answer that on our Instagram or on the podcast. So we'll see.
Cool. Love it.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.